Welcome to the Fucking Mentality podcast, where we speak with business owners and we ask them what their fucking moment was that makes them say, fuck it, let's do it. Either we swim or we drown. What's your moment? Share with us. All right, good morning, Paul, and thank you for being here, being my first guest in our yet to be launched podcast, which is called Fuck It Mentality.
Thanks, David. Thanks for having me, mate. It's privileged to be the first cab off the rank.
Yeah, so just a little bit of background. Paul is a personal mentor of mine, a long-time friend, and Paul has helped me quite a little bit over the years, from my very first business to now being my business mentor as well. So thank you very much, Paul. There's a lot of stories that I want Paul to be able to share with us. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do and how you got into this sort of business?
Thanks for the kind words, Dave. How did I get into, or how did I get to where I am now?
Yeah.
I suppose over my whole business career and my whole working life, I've essentially been kind of self-employed and, been in my own business in one form or another.
Yeah.
For almost 40 odd years now. So in the last 10 to 15 years, I was lucky enough to be involved with some people and get to kind of coach and mentor a few people along the way while I was doing some consulting work, some advisory work over the last decade. And in the last couple of years, I just felt it was time for me to sort of formalize that and really kind of take that on with focus my energy on mentoring, advisory work, and a little bit of coaching, which I'm building on that as well.
Yeah.
So, but it's mainly around mentoring and guidance and working with great people to see if
So
how we
obviously
can help them in life and business and help them progress.
Yeah, so obviously you've had your previous businesses, other ventures before that as well. This is something that I never asked or I don't know about yet. Can you tell me a bit more about the businesses that you previously had?
Over the years, the businesses, the areas I've worked in have been primarily in two categories, in two sectors. One has been in the hospitality sector where we met, and the other's been in the property industry.
Yeah.
So over the years, I've been involved in the property industry. For example, I've worked in various ways in development, in some project management. I've done quite a bit of work with one of Sydney's leading real estate businesses, and on the corporate side of their business. And I've worked with various people in and around the property sector.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's one thing that you said to me that I could never forget, and this is something that I take with me everywhere I go as well. You say, we're not in hospitality business, we're in customer experience business. And I take that and I implement that into my business as well. We're not in finance business, we're in customer experience business, because in the end, it's not what you sell, it's how you sell it.
Spot on, Dave. Everything is in customer experience, really, in a sense. I heard something fantastic a couple of decades ago, maybe even more. And this gentleman was on a stage somewhere, and he said, "The customer will always forget what you said, and the customer will always forget what you did. But in the end, the customer never forgets the way you make them feel." And that kind of stuck with me, and it's really, you can make mistakes, you can kind of get things wrong. I mean, obviously, we don't want people to be negligent, but it's amazing how far a sincere apology can go and whatnot. But it's about how you leave that connection with customer that's so crucial. You make customer, you build trust, you build confidence with people, and if people feel good when they connect with you and make contact with you, they tend to come back for more.
That's very powerful. And this is something that I'm struggling with as well. And I've told you this previously, that my biggest challenge is to find or how to forge a genuine and strong connection. What do you think makes a huge difference when it comes to forging strong relationship or genuine relationship with people?
There's nothing. I wouldn't put it down to one thing making a huge difference. I think it's kind of lots of small things. But I think what's most important in forging connections with people is just paying attention.
Yeah.
I think, if you just pay true attention to people, not kind of think about what is it you're doing next, what are you going to do after this, how, what's the next step, just really kind of staying with people, slowing yourself down, connecting, listening deeply to what they're saying,
Yeah.
listening for what they're not saying, kind of that's how it works.
Listening to what they're not saying. That's very interesting.
It's it really is how you tune into people.
Yeah, and maybe this speaks volume for me as well, because I find it very hard to be vulnerable in front of people, in terms of listening to what people are not saying, looking at the subtle looking at the subtle signs of struggle, of challenges that they're facing. That'll be the biggest thing. How, in your opinion, how do you, as a mentor and I would call a psychologist as well, would you?
Well, I don't know if I'm a psychologist, but maybe I've just been around long enough to know a little bit. Maybe it's just a kind of consequence of years on planet.
Yeah. So the question is, how do you get people to be more vulnerable, or how to break down that wall to be able to be their genuine self?
It's interesting the way you pose the question. So how do you get people to be?
How do I become more vulnerable?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's where we need to kind of focus.
Yeah.
So, and vulnerability is it's very much a buzzword. Everyone says, "Oh, if you're vulnerable, this will happen and that'll happen and whatnot." But vulnerability is not kind of easy and doesn't just come in an instant.
Yeah.
I think you need to be you just don't make yourself vulnerable to anyone. You kind of feel you need to build safety. You need to be able to build a space or a connection with people where they can feel a bit more vulnerable.
Yeah.
And, that starts with how you come across. If you can't really expect vulnerability from someone else if you don't, show some kind of openness and the ability to kind of be empathetic and create this, kind of safe space for people, because
That's true.
Emotional safety is kind of what it's about. It's a bit that gives people the freedom and the space to be vulnerable, to talk about how they really feel.
Yeah.
And it's in that conversation, it's in that space that we really make connections with people, and we really kind of.
I suppose for me, and maybe I can speak for a lot of men as well, is when we're trying to be vulnerable, or when we're trying to open up, we're scared, we're afraid that when we speak of something that will come back to us or used against us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this is very common, obviously, because we're so busy in life, kind of creating our identity and wearing all these different kind of masks and shields and whatnot, that if we reveal what we might truly be feeling, or some aspects of who we are, that it may be used against us. It's true. It's a scary thing, and sometimes it will be used against you.
Yeah.
It's a kind of unavoidable consequence. You may pick the wrong person to be vulnerable with, or maybe, that relationship down the track may, whether it be with man, woman, business, whatever, may break down, and that kind of may work against you in some way. But if you don't go down that path and have the risk of that happening, you don't get the actual other part, which is the beauty of connection and being vulnerable with someone and having that thing going on, that kind of indescribable feeling where you're safe and you can connect with someone and talk about, and be open and yourself.
Yeah.
So, yes, it can be used against you, but, you have to accept that when you do things, like there's often, there's two sides of the consequence, two consequences.
You've just got to be brave, and brave people are vulnerable.
Yeah.
That's how I picked that.
Well, yeah, there is a certain element of bravery or and bravery. Bravery means to be brave, you have to be frightened.
Ah,
Yeah, well, the absence. I think it's the absence of bravery is not the absence of fear.
yeah.
It's the ability to go past and work with that fear. Because if you don't have the fear, then kind of bravery doesn't really mean much.
To be brave, you need to be frightened.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And obviously, you've helped me over the years with being the advocate for mental health. You helped me a lot with me personally in relationship, as well as in business. And I've just learned this morning that you're involved in a lifeline as well. Can you talk to me a bit more about that?
Absolutely. Yes, I have been. I think what's called a crisis supporter at Lifeline. It's a voluntary thing.
Yeah.
At Lifeline for some 7 years now, and really, it's kind of such a privilege to be able to go to this place and share stories with people who are kind of in their, many of them in their darkest moment, and just be there to listen to people and kind of lend a hand where you can. It's really something else.
Yeah.
It can be a bit kind of daunting at times and whatnot, but it's been a way for me to give something back to the community, and it's been a great growth.
Yeah.
Part of my personal growth.
Yeah.
And for anyone out there who are thinking this might be something for them, I'm doing a little advocacy now. If you're interested in volunteering, I would kind of check it out, something like that.
And obviously, in doing something like that, you meet with a lot of vulnerable people, a lot of people who are struggling mentally as well. Does it drain you, or how does it make you?
It depends. It depends how you are. In a sense, it can at times be a little bit draining. I think with experience, and the more you're kind of exposed to it, the more you learn how to deal with it and how to let go of things.
Yeah.
When you say leave your shift in the call center and whatnot, but if you're not, part of the training at Lifeline is to understand that you only go to and do your shift when you're in the right headspace and you feel okay, because what's most important is that you give those help seekers, the people who call in, the best experience you can possibly give them.
Yeah.
And you can't do that if you've had a really bad day, or you've had an argument with someone at home on the way, and you feel really down, or you're feeling very down about yourself, or whatever. You can't do that. So you need to also have this self-awareness.
Yeah.
And the ability to call it when you can't do something. You just can't do it. And also there's a certain kind of model of self-care you do after.
Okay.
And you're very well. There's lots of support within the structure for the volunteers if they're triggered by something, or they're feeling kind of drained by the activity.
Obviously, in our line of work, we've met a lot with small business owners, small, medium, even big business owners, and I don't know why people are getting into it. Like, all the business owners that I know are struggling. Pretty much mentally, not all of them, but majority of them, they have some sort of struggle. I know that everyone has their own battle, but small business owners are doing it tough at the moment, especially if they're doing it alone. They have no one to talk to. Everyone needs a mentor. That's what I tell people. No matter how successful you think you are, you need someone there. Sitting beside you or behind you to give you some sort of support. It could be your partner if you're lucky, but if for those who don't have supportive partners, I would say to them, you need to go out and find a mentor, because that's what I found really helpful for me. I went through a bit of hard path this was a couple of years ago, and I've told you about this. And the most helpful one I found was through Beyond Blue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Got a great mentor for mental health.
Yeah.
We got through it. We worked on anxiety, excessive worrying, and stuff like that. When it comes to mental readiness or mental stability,
Yes.
what's your top 5 things that you would tell anyone to do that can be done immediately to start, being mentally ready for the day, for example, at least?
Okay, top 5 things. Well, let's see how many we can get. Well, for me, and the number one thing I promote and I start my own day with is physical activity.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of crucial. You got to get out there and move your body. And I'll tell you a little story. When I went through a particularly hard period of my life, it was just after the GFC. I think 2009, 2010, and whatnot. And I'd had some pretty tough experiences in business.
Yeah.
And I'd taken some pretty decent knocks. I found myself in a pretty tough position, and I wasn't coping all that well.
Mm-hmm.
And I really felt I couldn't get control of my mind and where I was at and how I was going to pick myself up and get on with things and all of that stuff. So what I did, the conclusion I did come to was that if I couldn't quite get my mind going the way I want, what I can do is get my body going the way I want it. So I really dedicated myself for a few months to kind of training hard and exercising hard, and that really set me on a path of being able to, be in much better condition to deal with what was happening then and ongoing, and it's still now that my main kind of anchor.
Momentum builds momentum.
Well, definitely, yeah.
So it starts physically.
Starts with your physicality. What are the other things you can do? You can, always keep yourself. I don't know about starting the day, but these are a few things. Keep yourself informed, get educated, read. Listen to who you want. Podcasts who you like, books, whatever. Be curious.
Yeah.
Be curious. Avoid judgment, Try not to judge.
Yeah.
Try and just kind of, when things are kind of a bit tough, we all want fast answers, quick conclusions, whatnot. Life's just kind of, unfortunately it's not like that. It doesn't provide kind of super quick.
Be curious, not judgmental.
Yeah. That's across everything, across so many things,
And that's what we find, but that's the reality of the world. People judge instead of asking curious questions. And that's something that I find as well. When you start asking curious questions, you start to learn more about people, why they do things a certain way. And you tend to find different path, bigger or better way of doing something as well when you start asking questions.
For sure. Life is about the questions. It ain't about it's about the questions we ask.
Yeah.
That's kind of.
Well, obviously, in your time, you've had a few businesses already, and you've mentored a few business owners. What's the biggest challenge that you think these business owners face?
The biggest challenge. I think that one of the biggest challenges is focus and their ability to kind of be consistent. I think consistency is kind of really key to so many things,
Yeah.
Just what people kind of tend to find, that's the right thing, and then they do that for a little while, and then they find something that's a kind of better thing, and then that falls off, and then so always looking for the next kind of best thing.
Yeah.
But I think, consistency is crucial. I think it all, focus and avoiding distraction is kind of like so important.
Yeah.
You know, knowing, you know, kind of clearly, you know, having clarity around what it is you're doing, you know, what it is you're trying to do. You know, I'm not talking about like, you know, we need these kind of great goals and, you know, we don't have to have all these big goals and whatnot, but just having clarity about what you're doing over the next kind of 30, 60, 90 days to build momentum in your business, to kind of get you just kind of from here a bit more forward. And like you said just a bit earlier, you know, momentum is kind of such a crucial thing. And you build momentum through small incremental steps. You know, not by kind of dreaming big's great and having a big vision is fantastic. We want that. But, you know, being consistently doing the day-to-day things, whether it be around your business, your personal life, your emotional health, you know, whatever it might be. You know, people go, oh, you know, everyone's loving the whole gratitude story and, we've got to be grateful for everything. And that's true. It's true. We do, but we don't need to be hugely, we just need to be a little bit grateful every day. And all of those things kind of build up. They kind of accumulate. Yeah. It's an accumulative effect.
Yeah. And yeah, I can relate to that. And I think a lot of business owners are motivated, but not a lot of them are disciplined enough to do, you know, jump into the daily grind, doing the same thing every day.
You got it, Dave. Yeah.
And that's where mental strength comes in as well, comes into play, because the ability to do that, the resilience that you need to have to be able to do that day in, day out, every day, no matter how hard every day is, that makes a difference.
Totally. And to do it, and it's not even as much as it's in the doing every day, day in, day out. What's most important is knowing when you kind of, I don't know, well, it is most important, is knowing when you're not doing it and being able to come back. Kind of quickly having the self-awareness that, you know, I'm kind of, you know, deluding myself a little bit here. I need to come back to this. Because we all kind of get, you know, we get distracted. We move off track and whatnot. And we, you know, it's hard to, it is super hard to be kind of 100% disciplined.
Yeah.
But it's having the awareness to say to you and being able to say to yourself, okay, I've kind of come here now. I need to go back and reset and go again.
Yeah.
Because you can't just have one kind of onward, forward trajectory that never, I mean, maybe there's the odd kind of, you know, fluke or kind of unicorn type of operation. But everyone hits setbacks, hits roadblocks, things happen, you get knocked down, you know. It's the old, you know, it's the classic old, you know, I get knocked down 7, I get up 8. You know, you just kind of keep coming back. Coming back and going forward.
And that's exactly why everyone needs a coach. Something you told me before as well is the way I look at my life, the way I look at my business and personal life is like I'm sitting right in front of the big screen in the cinema, and you told me to, you know, sit right in the middle, not very far back, to be able to see the whole picture. And that really helped me a lot.
Yeah, well, look, I would love to lay claim to have thought of that, but I will tell you that came to me via a very dear friend and a fellow who taught me meditation quite a few years back, and we became good friends, and he was a good friend to many, many people. He's no longer with us, unfortunately, he passed away a couple of years ago, but his name was Tim Brown, and Timmy taught us that, you know, life is a bit like, you know, he said that life was somewhat like being in the conscious cinema. What we want to do, we don't want to be too close to the front because we're kind of too absorbed in the whole thing. It's too overwhelming. We don't know, you know. It's all a little bit too much. And we don't want to be right in the very back either, where we're kind of disengaged. We can't kind of see, you know, really what's going on. What we need to find is that kind of middle row.
The sweet spot.
The sweet spot in the conscious cinema. Sit there where we can feel, you know, we can move in and out, back and forth, you know, and we can feel it. And, you know, and he taught me many, many things other than that. And I want to kind of acknowledge him.
Meditation is something that I've been trying to do as well. And another thing that I'm struggling with because I've got erratic brains. My brains are I've got ideas coming out of my ears basically, and every time I try to meditate, every time I try to focus on breathing or being mindful, being mindful. It's just almost impossible. And when you told me about Tim Brown and Vedic meditation, that sort of helped me a little bit to calm down. You told me that I meditated wrong. Can you elaborate more on that?
Yeah.
Just a bit of background.
Yeah.
The way I meditated before was that I focus on my breath for the first 3 minutes, and then I focus on what I'm grateful for, the three things that I'm grateful for, and then the next 3 minutes is I'm focusing on what I'm trying to achieve in 5 years, 10 years time.
Yeah.
So the three things that would be a life achievement.
There's no wrong meditation.
Yeah.
I don't know if I doubt I would have said to you you're doing it wrong, but there's there are so many styles of meditation.
Yeah.
The idea of meditation is to give your system, some downtime and the ability to, kind of just reset itself. I'm far from an expert on meditation, so for me it was kind of just it's a grounding time. It's a time I can just kind of regroup.
Yeah.
Am I able to sit in the chair for 20 minutes and not think of anything? Very rarely, it does. But like I mentioned before, and it's like Tim used to say to me, you kind of, when you find your mind wandering off, you just kind of, he used to say to me, you just kind of be aware of it, smile inside yourself, and bring yourself back. So it's again this thing about going and coming back. It's about just knowing that you need to come back.
Yeah.
And in that form, in Vedic meditation and in some people call it transcendental meditation. It's done with a mantra. You're given a mantra, and it's a chant you use within yourself to kind of help you deepen your meditation and eventually transcend. That's kind of the
stay
idea
grounded.
Of it, yeah. But there is no wrong way.
Yeah.
All the ways are okay. But what I would recommend for you and for anyone else who wants to bring meditation into their life and whatnot is to find the right teacher. Yeah. And get some instruction. Because I had heard about it and kind of, but when I connected with Tim and it was that was a kind of bit of a life-changing experience. Yeah. Yeah.
Fantastic. I'll look into it. I'm going to ask you one question that I'm going to ask all the guests here.
Oh, okay.
What is, obviously, with all business owners, we all have that fuck it moment that we have, that really just say, fuck it, I'm going to do it. I'm going to jump. Whatever happens, happens. What is your fuck it moment that propelled you personally and professionally?
Oh gosh, there's been a few moments that have kind of propelled me and kind of set me on a path. Not all of them have turned out great, but there've been a few moments. Maybe it was one that was kind of. I'll talk about one that was kind of particularly life-changing event, and it was when I was kind of flicking through. At that time, I was kind of working with a friend and a colleague, and we were kind of looking at a property investment and doing a little bit of a kind of renovation and of small buildings and flipping them on and this and that. And then I was flicking through a newspaper. And this was in the late 90s. When I was flicking through a newspaper, and the advert said Australia's best retail opportunity. I think it was the top of it was a Collier's ad. Okay. And I looked down at the page, and I thought, well, that's kind of like, looks interesting and impressive, but, obviously that's for the bigger players and, whatnot.
Yeah.
Anyway, I kind of looked at it, the more I looked at it, the more I kind of thought it was interesting. Anyway, fast forward, 6 months later, myself and three other partners bought Australia's finest retail opportunity.
Can you share with us what that was?
It was a piece of property on what was then the very controversial Toaster Strip of Sydney.
Okay.
Down at East Circular Quay.
Yes.
It was a kind of Circular Quay waterfront retail property that, we would never thought, kind of four ordinary guys who are kind of connected either through family or rugby or whatever would do. And then that, 2 months after that, we're written up as paying the high square metre rate. It was just one of those moments that led to a whole bunch of things happening, and it was just a lot of fun. But we took quite a plunge. We kind of spent a lot of money that we really didn't have.
Yeah.
on a property 1 year out from completion. That was 1 year out from completion. We went into a tender against a whole bunch of kind of people, and we never thought in our wildest dreams we'd be able to acquire this property. And in the end, we did, and we went on. And we created risk, and we did a whole bunch of things. But that was one. But there were kind of a bunch of other weird things like that kind of opportunities present themselves, and you just go, oh, should I really do this? And you go, okay, let's do this. And we did, whether it was buying properties for development, having a crack at development projects, having a crack at hospitality projects. Yeah. And they're the things that happen, like kind of in your, they're those moments that, happen in your business life that, change, make huge changes. And some of them turn out great, and I've experienced both, and some of them turn out disastrous. Yeah.
And how do you pivot from the disastrous event or projects?
Well, look, there's no kind of magic to it. You just kind of have to pick yourself up and somewhat pick yourself up and get on with things. Sometimes it takes you a longer time than you might want. Yeah. And I went through one kind of episode and period in my life where it took me some years to get over the failure and the disaster that took place, and it was extremely tough time in my life. Yeah.
And that was when GFC hit.
Yeah, just after GFC, I went through a kind of really, a few things kind of conspired to turn my world a little bit upside down. Yeah. But at the same time, it gave me the opportunity to look at my life in a more holistic way, and really kind of have a look at what I was, have a think about what I'd been doing, both on a business level and on a personal level, and change my life. Yeah. Hopefully for the better.
So you've seen both sides of things, being a business mentor and being a volunteer at Lifeline. The key to this that I can pick out is that you need to be able to see through the difficulties. How do you think what do you think is the best way for people to be able to see through all these difficulties, see through all these struggles? For me, myself, is the one phrase, in the end, it's going to be okay. Yeah. If it's not okay, it's not the end.
It's not the end. Yes, I love that. I like that movie. Yeah. Yes. So, sorry, Dave. What you're saying is, how do you get up after the?
Yeah. After you get hit.
Yeah, after you get hit. Well, look, everyone's different. There is no kind of one way, but if you're blessed enough to have the support, to have people who support you, and to have people around you who can help, who can just be with you, that are not necessarily trying to fix anything for you but are just there for you, You know, maybe I did something in a previous life, but I was certainly lucky enough to have supporters like that.
Yeah.
You know, people who are very close to me. You know, without them, you know, there's not much. But you know.
Say for someone like me, for all of us that want to help as well, to be as supportive as we can for those that we've noticed that are struggling around us, how can we best do it without going, oh, I'm trying to fix this?
Yeah, the best way to do it, if you feel someone is struggling and you want to support them, is to just let them know. I can see you're struggling, and I want to support you. Yeah, and just whether you let me know how. Yeah, if you know, you just tell me what it is you need. I can suggest things. You know, because often when people will say, "Oh no, it's okay. I don't want to bother you. I don't want to trouble you," or you know, because you get that as well, and that's understandable. But you know, you can say, "Look, I'd love to just have a coffee." Yeah. Let's have a coffee. I want to tell you about something that's going on in my world. You can tell them about what's happening for you. You know, let's go here. Let's have a walk. Let's kind of, you know. There's a saying from a coffee farmer from Yemen that I've met a few years ago. Really? The shortest distance between two people is a cup of coffee. Is a cup of yeah. Well, it is. It's so true. I mean, you know. In the very kind of Australian, so you know, the Australian thing was always like, let's have a cup of tea. Yeah. You know, let's, you know, a cuppa will fix it. You know, like there's kind of that thing. But yeah, it's just getting, you know, it's just being at the table with someone. It's sometimes I'm mentoring students at Lifeline, and often they're amazing young people coming through. Kind of psychology graduate, you know, studying psychology, and they want to come in and they want to fix everything and whatnot, and that's beautiful and whatnot. But I will just say to them, when you're sitting across the table from when you're on the phone to someone and you want to connect with them, just kind of imagine yourself sitting opposite. You're at the kitchen table in your house and you're sitting opposite your friend, your best friend, and you just kind of bring the conversation from a transactional, take the conversation from the transactional part of your body down into the heart, into the emotional part of your body, and just be with people like in that way, and you know, just be present, just be present, just keep showing up. Because when people are struggling, they say kind of crazy things and they tell you they do whatever, but you just kind of keep showing up, and you know that's part of your own, you know, your own evolution. All right, cool. I think I've got no more questions for now. No more questions. Okay, what questions do I have for you? Maybe you can ask me questions. Yes, I can ask you questions. Okay, David. I think this is great. You're doing this podcast. What's inspired you to do this podcast? What's inspired me to do this podcast is my own story. Tell us more. Yeah, like I said, everyone's got their own fucking moment. And in many business ventures that I've done previously, I'm very impulsive. Mm-hmm. So that's just the kind of things. It's either it's good and bad at the same time, like you said. So some of the things obviously worked, some of them didn't. Yes. And most of the things I do just because I don't have a complete picture whenever I started doing something. I just try to jump in, act first. It's hard to have the complete picture. Act first. It's actually very rare that you have the complete picture before you do something. Exactly. So you'll be there waiting forever. Exactly. And the story with 12 Grains Capital, my latest venture, as of now, is when I first started. It was sort of triggered by Viola as well. Viola, my lovely wife, and she was saying to me, I was spending too much time working in hospitality as well as finance. Yeah. So I have no time for the family. Levi was 1 year old at the time, and she did not feel supported. So I had to let one of the businesses go, or
I had to let my family go.
Yeah.
I decided to let both my businesses go,
Yeah.
hospitality and finance, and started with a clean slate.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that I drained all my savings to purchase a couple of properties, and then took out a credit card. So literally started from even less than zero. I started with a negative. And that was the moment where I said to myself, you either swim or you die. And I had to really, really, really swim for the first 12 months at the very minimum. Still remember sending out emails, 200, 300 emails a day manually, because I didn't know anything about mail merge at the time.
Yes.
To anyone and everyone that I could find on Google.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, well, I mean, I'm kind of at a bit of an advantage. I know kind of a good chunk of your story, and that's great, David, what you've done and how you've evolved, and, you know, your commitment to your business and your family and everything and your clientele, and everything you do is kind of, is great, and, you know, done with, you know, really great intention, and that's important. I think intentionality is really important, and that's something I really see in you.
That's a thin line between greatness and stupidity.
Someone said to me, I think it was 2 days ago, they said, "Oh, I read something that you wrote and it was so inspiring."
What did you write?
It was just a thing on LinkedIn. There was some writing, and I said, "Oh, well, look, words are one thing, but this person who wrote me this message is a very gutsy young woman who had taken a substantial risk in a business venture, and it looks very good to me." But it was, and I said, actions kind of speak, you know, louder than words. Often, I'm not. There's nothing wrong with words, but often, you know, we need the actions. I said, "Now that's inspiring." That was kind of amazing. Yeah, so it's great. I feel incredibly blessed that I get to work with really brilliant people, and who sometimes businesses aren't going as well, but you know they're amazing people. They're good-hearted, and you know, and want to look after and do the right thing by people, and that's kind of what it's about. It's so important.
Yeah. We all need people like you to help us see the good in the world again.
Wow. I've got great. You know, I'm blessed. I've got great people around me. I've got people like, you know, Anthea, and you know, my partner Anthea is an amazing naturopath. You know, being of service to incredible number of people and doing amazing things. And I've got I've got a couple of kids and brothers and sisters and just people everywhere, you know. I'm truly one of the lucky ones.
Yeah, I remember you kind of fell off the radar a little bit when it comes to mentorship. Where were you and what were you doing?
When I fell off the radar?
Yeah.
Can you pin it to a kind of time?
That was probably just before we started mentorship again, so probably a couple of years before that.
Okay. I was kind of deeply involved in some, with a couple of clients in doing some property development.
Oh, okay.
So I was kind of I spent a period of time where I was very hands-on in almost like in a project management situation.
Right.
Which was really great. I kind of, you know, it was, you know, I'm never too old to learn new things. Definitely, I'm kind of big on lifelong learning, and
lifelong learning.
It was a great experience. It wasn't something. It was something that was kind of different to what I'd been through a number of building projects before, but this was very different, you know. So, you know, I did that, and I was very immersed in that for kind of like 3-4 years.
Yep.
So, and then this came through, and you know, more recently I've done, you know, the elite, some training of my own with a group called Alethea Coaching.
Okay.
And Alethea Coaching is, you know, I wanted to bring some more, you know, put some more kind of tools in my kit bag, or whatever that phrase is, and some of the things I learned at Alethea, I mean, are just fantastic for my own personal development. And if I can bring some of that to my clients, it will be a great it will be a great thing.
That's it.
Yeah.
Lifelong learning.
Yeah, lifelong. Yeah, it's definitely lifelong learning is what it's all about.
All right, Paul. Thank you very much again.
Pleasure, Dad.
Thanks for being my first guest.
Pleasure, man. What a privilege.
Do you think that was a great podcast? We'd love to hear questions and thoughts from you guys. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to us from wherever you get your podcast.